Hello and welcome back. In this lecture I want to talk about installing the required software for the class. It's going to be very easy. We only need to install essentially one software component. This will come with everything we need to create a C program. And what we're going to be installing is an integrated development environment called code blocks, blocks. I do want to tell you a little bit about this program, this IDE. It's really useful. We're going to download it. I'm going to go through the process of installing it. But some of the highlights of code blocks are its cross-platform. And that's one of the main reasons I chose it, as well as it being very user-friendly. It will run on Linux, it will run on a Mac, and it will run on Windows. And it's very easy to install. So you can use this integrated development environment to create and write your C programs and run your C programs on any of these operating systems. The actual IDE, the integration development environment, is written in C++. So you don't have any, it runs very fast, it's very efficient. You don't have any proprietary libraries you have to download. The compiler that it's going to use is this Ming Win compiler. This is like a Sigwin compiler that comes on Windows. We're going to be doing all of our examples on Windows, but it's going to be seamless because the same IDE can be used on any other platform. But it is very user-friendly, very easy to use, very fast. It's a typical IDE where you can create projects and do nice things. The other reason I chose it is, besides it being very lightweight, it also has a debugger, which we're going to go through in a whole other section. But this will be helpful when we need to find and fix our errors in our code. You can do basic debugging techniques. It also supports this integrated development environment common features of most IDEs. So things like syntax highlighting. It also allows for code completion, which makes it much more efficient to write code. These concepts will become more clear when we start writing our code. But this is the IDE that we're going to use, and it's very useful and very nice and user-friendly. Now, to download it and install it, we have to bring up a browser and we have to go to codeblocks.org. It's very simple. So type this link into your browser. And I'm now going to go over to my Chrome web browser. So here we have Google. Let's just type in codeblocks. Codeblocks.org, which is I already have here as a link. When you go here, you see the home page. You can read through this stuff to see some of the things I just mentioned. But what you want to do to install this is you want to go to Downloads, which is the Downloads link right here. And then you want to select Binaries on the left-hand side under Downloads Binaries. And then depending on where you're installing, if you're installing on Linux, or you're installing on Windows, or you're installing on Macintosh, you want to select the correct executable. So here, since we're doing Windows, I'm going to select the correct one here. But if you are doing Linux, you just go to the one that you want to select. And for Linux and Macintosh, they usually come as tar files, and you can just extract them. If you need help doing that, you can always ask questions in class. But it's very basic, and it's pretty much explained here as well. But for Windows, what we want to do for Windows, we want to select code blocks that comes with our compiler. So what we want to do is we want to select the fourth option here, code blocks - whatever version 16.01 Ming W-setup. So what this is going to do is it's going to download and install Ming compiler, Sigwin compiler for you, and it's very basic. So you'll want to select this option. And to download this, we just have to double click on the repository, either sourcefuge.net or FossHub. So we're going to double click for sourcefuge.net. This will automatically start the download in a couple seconds. If it doesn't, you can select a direct link, but it will ask you where you want to download. And I'm just going to download to my downloads directory. And you notice it's going to be an executable file. So once you download it, we're going to need to click it. But you want to hit save to download it. Now, the executable file is about 79 to 80 megs. So it may take a few minutes to download. But once you have it downloaded, you then want to execute the setup. So now I'm going to transition back to my Windows Explorer to show you how to run the executable. Now I'm in my downloads directory. I'm going to double click what I just downloaded, which was my exe, codeblocks exe. We'll double click that, and that's going to run a little wizard that will that's going to run a little wizard that will allow you to install code blocks. The first screen you're going to see is this one. It's going to go through the installation of code blocks. You can just hit the next button. You then want to accept the license agreement by just saying I agree. Here is where you can choose the components you want to install. Depending if you want to get rid of things or if you don't want to have certain things, you can uncheck some boxes, but I would just leave all of these checked. There are some plugins that come along with it. You can leave all this checked. It takes up about 230 megabytes on your hard drive, but you just hit the next button here. It's going to by default install as an x86 32-bit or 32-bit installation. So you say install, and then it goes through the wizard and basically copies all the files. And this may take a couple seconds or a minute as well. And then it will ask you if you want to run code blocks. You can say yes just to make sure that it installed correctly. This will bring up the integrated development environment, and that's basically it. You won't have to do anything else other than that. It's going to automatically detect whether or not you have a compiler. The compiler should automatically be installed along with Minwin that came down with you. So you may see a screen like this for auto detection. You can just say OK. Otherwise, it's going to find it, and you're going to see your startup screen, and you're going to see your development environment. And that's all it takes. This is all the software that we need that is going to allow us to write and run our C programs. So pretty easy. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. In this lecture I want to go through installing Visual Studio Code. This is another IDE that you can use for the class. This is geared more towards Mac users. When you're trying to use code blocks in Mac, it's not hasn't been supported in a couple of years, so this would be my recommended IDE to use for Mac users. But if you're a Windows user and you want to use this, you can use it as well. It's a free integrated development environment that allows you to compile and run C programs. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to install. This class is not dependent on any one IDE, so you can use whatever you want. A lot of the examples are in code blocks, but it's pretty much the same thing if you're using Visual Studio Code. It's all about compiling and running your programs. If you're on a Mac, you could also use Xcode. There are a lot of options available. Visual Studio Code is just one of them. So let's go ahead and go through how we can install and use this program to compile and run C programs. Using this program consists of 3 steps. You have to go to the Visual Studio website and download the IDE by itself. You then have to install an extension. The extension that I'm going to recommend is a really lightweight extension that allows you to run single C source files by just doing a Control-Alt-N. Very, very simple to use. There are other C++ extensions. You're free to go ahead and try to use those. They probably entail a little bit more complicated in terms of you might have to install another C compiler, but this one really does the job. Once you install this extension, again, very simple to just run with Control-Alt-N. So let's go to the web and download this program. So here's my browser. The website is code.visualstudio.com. Again, very straightforward. Once you go there, you'll notice you hit the home page, and to download it, you just hit the download button in the upper right-hand corner. When you go there, you want to select the operating system that you're running on to install. Like I said, I'm recommending this for Mac users because code blocks isn't supported. So for Mac users, you would just install the Mac version. I'm on a Windows version, so I'm going to select Windows, but again, it should be the same. You pretty much just go through you save the file, you run the executable, and it goes through a simple wizard to install everything. It's about 50 megs, should download pretty quick if you're on a good server. Once you download the file, you can just run it. Again, for Microsoft, it's a straight wizard. For Mac, it's pretty much the same straightforward thing. So you hit Next, and you just accept the license agreements. You hit Next, you install it probably in your whatever folder you want. It's going to install Visual Studio Code. I usually add it to the path and create a desktop icon, and then it's just install and say finish. Again, a very straightforward install. Once this is installed, you'll then want to run the program and install an extension. So I usually just launch it immediately, and I hit finish. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to install the extension. Again, it's very straightforward IDE. To install an extension, you can just go down here and to the left-hand side and hit the extensions, or you can search and type in C or C++. If you hit the extensions, you can still search. So I'm just going to type in C. I'm going to type in Code Runner actually, because I'm going to install the Code Runner extension. Code Runner is, again, a very lightweight one. Once you select that, you'll notice it looks like this. It's Code Runner John Hand, and you can just say install. And that's pretty much it. Now you're able to run and compile C programs. Now for the environment for Visual Studio Code, again, pretty straightforward. There's a concept of a workspace, but not a project. For our purposes in this class, you don't even have to worry about workspaces or projects. You can create single files. But if you're interested, you can go up to File. You can put all of your programs in a workspace by creating a folder and then add that folder to the workspace. And then that allows you to run many different programs. For our purposes, I'm just going to create a new C file. Now, when you create a new file, it's just going to create a file that's untitled, not saved to the disk. I'm just going to close the Explorer version and just have this. I like this little Explorer here. I close the left-hand side. So I'm going to say File. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it with a C extension, which is what C files are saved with. You'll learn that as we go through the class. Once I save it, I can then start writing C code. And so I'm going to write a simple program. This may not look familiar to you. It's okay. I just want to show you how to run it. So there's some standard things you do in C. I'm just going to write a simple hello world type program. And again, don't worry about this code. You don't need to know how it works. I just want to show you how to use the editor. So once I've written my C code, I can then hit Control S to save the file. To run it, all I have to do is hit Control Alt N. And Control N is going to compile your program. Now I made a mistake. I don't have a semicolon at the end, so it gave me an error. I had the semicolon, I hit Control S, and I hit Control Alt N again. This recompiles the code and it generates an executable. And what you'll notice is on the second running, it displayed the output hello world. But it's really that simple. You just hit Control Alt N. And again, you'll want to play around with this, maybe open some different extensions, use some maybe more complicated ones. But to get up and running, this is the basics. You'll notice that the IDE is very similar to other IDEs, very similar to code blocks. Like I said earlier, this class is not dependent on any one IDE. You can use anything you want. You can use Visual Studio for Microsoft, Visual Studio Code that's free here. You can use code blocks, which I use. You can use Xcode. They all look the same, right? You create new C files, you compile and you run them. This one also has a debugger, it has a terminal. Again, many useful things. So here's just a quick overview of how you can use Visual Studio Code, install it, run C programs in a Mac or Windows environment. Thank you.